Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cami Goes Keto, where I'm here with Mike Collins, the sugar-free man, the man who does the Quit Sugar Summit and is an amazing person who takes a stand for people who are trying to work on getting off of sugar. Just really, really helpful in so many people's lives to really help us with our sugar addiction. So thank you so much, Mike, for being here. And today I want to talk about my why and see if we can get into that a little bit. And I'm a little nervous about this discussion because I just am. So I am doing really well. Just a little check in here. I'm on day, I think, 13 of eating really well. I have a food plan that I'm writing out that I am sticking to very, very consistently. I'm off of caffeine. Had a few little headaches here and there, but nothing really bad. Have some cravings at times, but have been able to get through those with a lot of prayer and a lot of reaching out and a lot of connection. And I am worried about falling off the wagon, So I'm thinking, okay, let's talk a little bit about my why and, why is it important for me to be here?
Very cool. So, is it the T-ball setup and tell us your why?
Yeah, so I was journaling for a little bit this morning about my why, and my why does not come to me right away, specifically, definitely. Like, I would really like to get it down to maybe a sentence, like my why, and something that really speaks to me and that is really important to me. And so it always starts out kind of superficial, right? Like, my why right now, one of the reasons why I'm really motivated now is because I'm worried about dying. I'm worried about my health. I'm worried about having a massive MI and being over and done with it just because, I'm heavy, my cardiac profile isn't good. I'm doing the best I can to take care of myself, and I don't think that's going to happen. But if I continue along this path, it makes me really worried that it's just a matter of time before my eating affects me, my mortality. That's a big why for me now. But I was thinking this morning, well, what would happen? Say that it needs to be deeper than that. Like, what if I wasn't worried about that? What if I wasn't worried about just, having a heart attack and dying because of all the issues I have going on with metabolic syndrome and fatty liver and high blood pressure and, all those things. And so then I wrote that I wanted to be healthy. I want to have a nice figure and I want to be healthy. And one of the reasons I wrote behind that was because I want to find a sweet, nice man who's going to be wonderful to me. And all of these things that I live kind of like in this fantasy life. And then I said, well, a man won't respect me when I'm heavy. And I just broke up with Dave, who is this wonderful man who really accepted me when I was heavy and was a sweet, nice man. And so I said, okay, well, the reason I didn't want to stay with him was because he was very passive in life and he wasn't really like working hard on his personal growth. And I saw areas in his life where he could grow personally, but he wasn't interested in trying to work on those. And so it was really a lack of acceptance on my part. And there were other things in the relationship, a lot of things that could have been worked around and, things could have gone. He was very willing and very capable to do things that would make me happy, but I couldn't stay in that relationship. And so that goes down to some deeper issues too. Like, I think one of the issues is that I'm really afraid to be that intimate with somebody and to like be happy. Like, part of me feels like I have to always be trying to find whatever it is that's going to make me happy. And, I have this feeling that like it's right in my face. It's like, well, here's your life, this can be happy. And I have to say, I'm going to say that Karen said, who was my person I did my channel with, if there's new people here, who's a good friend of mine, says that I hate my life. And I don't really think that's true. I think there's a lot of really wonderful things in my life that I really do love and enjoy. But when I say that, the two things that come to mind first and foremost are my two sons. And that's not me, right? They have their own lives. They're out living their own lives and doing their own things. So I tend to find other reasons like out there, like, oh, I want a sweet, nice man. Oh, I'm happy because of my sons, and it's really hard to focus down into me. But I also wrote here that, the type so I did a little bit of going down into the rabbit hole a little bit this morning with some journaling, and I got to the point here. I want to love and honor myself.
Okay.
And I want to care for myself deeply and in a healthy way. And that really does speak to me because I don't really, from the actions that I'm doing, right? I don't really honor myself when I'm on a binge, And that was the other big thing I wrote here. I want to eliminate binging. That is something that I want to be I want to be living my life in a way, whatever that way is, that creates the support and structure so that I don't binge on ultra processed foods.
I love this. I mean, I thank you for your honesty in a lot of it. That that you want a nice man and a figure, and sometimes these are the original things that people come to us for. But then you've already both done the work through your other, your alcohol recovery and the other work. You've already kind of done that, so you know what you want above and beyond a nice figure and a man. So I mean, you really delve into it. And the process of writing it out, I mean, at the bottom line, there's a requirement that the life you're headed towards is bigger than the life you're leaving. Not that Karen
Mm.
was right. I think I think we've already talked that her vision or her belief, the recovery process is a little different. It's a little bit more egoic, so I can understand her statement. But at realities, at the bottom line, you definitely have to have because why do it if you're not gonna? If you're happy with your life, what's the difference? So one of the things that I actually, is so funny that we're having this conversation now, because I have been reading, and this is going to be a little bit of a tangent for everybody and for you, but I want to put it out there for you because I think it's becoming an important thing in formulating your why and helping you think through it. Okay. And so one of the things that, if you read a lot about AI and the real depth of it all, there is a belief, and a correct one, I believe, that a lot of people are using it as a tool, meaning it writes a blog post, it writes a webinar, it does your taxes, does whatever, using it as a tool. The bigger people, the people who are really in the know, are using it as a strategy partner. And a strategy partner is someone, like you're saying, they're creating their why, they're creating their future, they're creating the strategy to get there. And the simple way to do this is to go to OpenAI or ChatGPT, it was what it's, on the thing, and take all of the transcripts of all of our work or all of your podcasts and upload the transcripts into ChatGPT and ask for just your part. Okay. And if you're paying the $20, one of the most miraculous thing that's happening with ChatGPT is that it is remembering you. So you can just introduce yourself again. And then the question you ask is, this is what I want. And you describe, you actually use the transcript that you just, or, write it out that you wrote this morning. Instead of writing it in a journal, write it there and then ask for a strategy. I swear to you, you will come up with new and different ideas that you never thought of. Okay. And it'll keep you moving. More than that, it becomes more of a journal for you where you can have strategy back and forth. You can ask it specific questions. What do I do this week? What do I do next week? What do I do for the year? What would my goal be? What should my goal be? Give me some synchronistic things that I'm not thinking of, positive things, right? Give me some stumbling blocks. And so it's pretty amazing. So that was just a quick aside. And I really think you should do it because when we have dinner on Saturday, we will talk about how this is affecting what I'm doing. And because I've been doing it now for over a year, and it has a real deep memory of what my businesses are, what my coach, everything that I've done, I've run through it, including all the emails and everything that I've done. And so when I ask it this question, it gives me things. Now, 80% of it I know already and it makes sense, and 80% is a little off. But there's 20% of it that I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? So check it out.
So it's kind of like your brain that remembers everything.
It does. It remembers everything, and
It
it's
remembers
also,
everything.
yeah, it remembers patterns. It remembers patterns that you keep repeating, and that's really good at that. It's really good at, like, saying you keep repeating this pattern, or you seem to be stuck in this place, right? And it's good reminders for you, right?
So is it easy to upload the transcripts?
Oh yeah, it's really easy, super easy. You just push a button and because you can get them from Riverside, you can get them from YouTube. They're really easy to do. It's really easy.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking for our listeners to try to see if they're interested in trying to get that done. Because a
Well,
lot of us are IT challenged out there.
we'll talk Saturday about where that's headed, and I'll tell you exactly where you literally create a database and they can actually talk to you. Okay, you create a database, and there's a company that will simplify it for you. And so they go to drcami.com and they say talk with Cami. That's why it's good to get what you've done so far and organized in one place, because then you upload it to another place and they can literally say, Dr. Cami, I'm having a tough time with cravings. And they will literally answer in your voice or another voice, but likely in your voice. Well, this is what I did. And this is what happened. And I swear I've worked with a couple of these and I'm getting my own done right now. It's like, it's freaking amazing.
So then why do I need to be around coaching people?
Well, this is part of it, but it becomes both a lead gen so that then they say, get on my email list or, whatever. So it becomes a lead gen for you, a lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what I'm doing here, hopefully, is helping you paint that bigger life. I'm helping you paint. Like at the end of the day, my intuitive feel is that we will continue this until you have that beautiful figure and you have that beautiful man. And then this thing is going to catch fire as a underground cult kind of thing. Somebody's going to say, how'd you lose the 60 pounds? And they're going to say, Dr. Cami. You know what I mean? Because the reason is because you're telling the truth. And in the business tech world, is called building in public. And building in public means building a company that is every foible and failure and success every day or every week. You give a recap. And it's so expansive on social media because people want to follow the real truth, not the varnished truth. And it explodes. It blows up, before the company is even successful, it blows up. You know what I mean? It blows up. It helps it blow up because the people spread the word of mouth of what's happening, right? And it's already happening with you and I in our community, okay? In our community, you are a literal cult hero, okay? You are like, holy crap, she's talking about her deepest, darkest failures and secrets. They respect you, you're a doctor, and they're talking about like, what you're going through. Like they're waiting for the next episode. You know what I mean? So on a small scale, it's already happening. So anyway, I mean, that may have been a little bit of a deviation from the basic why, but gang, for the listeners and for you is like, it's almost mandatory. I'll tell you another one, and Vanana's going to send it out to you. So I interviewed Molly Maloof yesterday, Dr. Molly Maloof, and Dr. Molly was a Stanford lecturer. She's, helped start NutriSense, the continuous glucose monitor, worked at Levels as advisors, and she's got a big resume, and she's very, very good, and it's all about metabolic health. And at the end of the day, I was asking her about people intellectually, herself included, because she told her own story. She told her own stories. She knew, and people know what to do. They just need to stop ultra-processed carbohydrates. You already know this, but they can't seem to execute on it. And she moved me away. She stopped me before I could even ask the question about how do we get people to do the behavioral change part of it, right? Which was, Mike, stop. She's like, literally, Mike, really like this. Mike, stop. Like, I know the answer. And instead of focusing on dopamine and serotonin and some of the other things, she focused on oxytocin. And oxytocin, the real reason is, for the first time in interviewing 400 of the world's leading experts, 85% I'm talking about the body and not understanding the behavioral change stuff. She said that this is really, really good, until you feel safe. The reason you use sugar when you were young is you didn't feel safe. Until you feel safe, you're never going to recover. Until you re-regulate your oxytocin, the bonding chemical, with a community or another relationship, you know, a relationship of people who are helping you, you're not going to feel safe in talking about it. You're not going to feel safe in actually even doing it. Because, and this was a little bit of a twist on what we teach and what I've been talking about here, is that it's not about, and she didn't say it this way, but it's not about the craving, really. It's about the unconscious programming that you used this when you didn't feel safe through the years, right? So when you didn't feel safe through the years, you ingested sugar, right? And until you feel, and as you become feeling safer, then you get better. And you can do this through EMDR and, you know, breath work and different stuff so that you start to do basically the same work that we've been doing, that I've been talking about, but more focused for her on oxytocin, which was a little bit of a twist. Although I do mention oxytocin in my, when I do my list, my George Carlin list there. It's like, it really was pretty fascinating. The end of it all, she said, Michael, we are in the personal development business. We are not in the, you know, whatever. She didn't draw too many analogies, but we are in the personal development business. You know what I mean? Which made a lot of sense to me. So again,
That's
a little
so
bit.
awesome. That's just the most awesome thing. And just to let people know who are out there, because a lot of men do watch our channel, but for the women, for people that are watching, oxytocin is the same thing as as the pitocin, which is the medicine that you get when you're in labor. I know pitocin very well. Pitocin is my near and dear friend because it would cause women to contract in labor and to have their babies. And so that's the same molecule. And I just find that so interesting how the body gets flooded with this oxytocin, right? Naturally, if even if I don't give it to you, you know, you'll naturally be using your oxytocin to deliver a baby. And when do you need to be close? You know, you talk about connection with the birth of your child right there, and you're just flooded with this oxytocin. I just think it's the coolest thing.
Yeah, no, you'll love the interview. It's at the end, but you know, it's a good warm up too to the thing. So we'll send it over, or Vidana's going to send it over to you.
Okay, I'll get it. Vidana can get it to me because then I will put a link to it for this.
Well, it's not going to be out yet. I think it's going to be on our cooperate or our joint venture with Dr. Lustig and the Hypoglycemia Foundation. That's where it's.
Okay.
I changed it over. I had the interview scheduled. It's a long story, but I had the interview scheduled. And I said right at the beginning, I said, Molly, I'm going to throw you a little curveball. She says, "Oh, that's great. That's my wheelhouse." So it worked out.
Okay, so we have to wait for it to be posted.
You have to wait till it be posted. Yeah.
Okay,
You'll
so
have a copy.
stay
You'll
tuned.
you'll have a copy. You can write something about it. But anyway, I don't want people to think that the Chat GPT or this, I don't want them to think that this is the answer. The question that you're asking, I mean, I think it's important. And you're going to fall behind if you don't start logging into that thing anyway. But what I'm saying here is that without knowing why you want to do it, one of the things I discovered is that because I did it naturally, and Elaine Aron, in her work on highly sensitive people, found out that only 20% of people have this visualization of their future. And the other 80% of the population has to be taught this. Like they don't think about like a visualization of where they want to be. But if you look at the Think and Grow Rich of the world and the types of books that talk about how to create your future, how to manifest your future, the basic tenet is to believe it and see it. And more importantly, in our work, it's in that work too, but feel it. You have to feel that you are already thin, that you are already successful, that you are already successful in a marriage or a relationship or whatever. You have to feel like you've already done it. And the body doesn't, and the brain does not know the difference. Okay. It's a little woo woo, but it's absolutely true. I'm living a dream from learning this decades ago, and a lot of people do it, and a lot of people are better than me at it. And it is part of this recovery process, this behavioral change process, where you take the knowing that you should quit sugar, the knowing that it's bad for your health, the knowing that it's killing you and making you overweight, to your heart and your soul and your gut, where you feel like that's not you anymore. And you can feel yourself thinner. You can feel yourself healthier. It's a little bit of a trick and a little bit of a work like meditation or prayer, but it does work. And that's the the quote unquote work, because you can't just do it once. It's an exercise like prayer and meditation that you do every day, in the mirror, and laying in bed, and you're visualizing the positive future that you want to manifest.
Well, and that's what's so important. I think that prayer and meditation is a big part of it. You have to be doing in your life as you're getting to where, okay, so the other day I was cleaning up, I was around the house and I was straightening up and doing all the stuff and I had music on and I was thinking about this cute little figure that I had. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, look, I even have a cute little butt. And, we don't have butts. I have the McGrath butt and it happens to be like this flat butt. But in my visualization, it was like this cute little butt and I'm going around and I'm cleaning the house and like I was there. And so that's what I'm really feeling like it's going to work, it's going to stick this time because I have everything lined up the right way to make things stick. And when you get a little bit, like 15 days or whatever under your belt, you're heading in the right direction, right? You're going, oh, look, am I doing things in my life that are going to get me there when I look in the mirror? See, that's the thing. When I was cleaning around the house and stuff, I just, when I was thinking that, I thought, just don't pass by a mirror. Because
Okay.
right now, the mirror's not going to match right now. But in
Yeah.
my mind, it did match.
That's an amazing exercise. That's an amazing story, and it's absolutely true. That's exactly what, and people don't think about that. Not that they don't think about it. It's just it's not been on their radar as something that's even, a thing. It's like, so we're teaching that to them. We're showing people that this does work. It's very real.
It totally works. I know that because when I was pre-med, it worked. Like when I was pre-med and I visualized myself walking across that stage and
Yep.
shaking somebody's hand and getting that degree. And that carried me. That
Yes.
carried me for years. How many years? 8 years? I mean, some crazy thing. I don't know. It just carried me for years. That visualization of I'm going to get that done. That's going to become a reality.
I
And I
first
have a really cool picture of it too when it
Good.
happened.
My first experience, I thought it was daydreaming until I read about people who did it, for real, right? So I would visualize me standing at the top of the podium and diving when I was younger, and we both share that, I think. And then I won the league, you know what I mean? But I thought it was daydreaming. I thought it was like, I didn't think of it as like an actual technique that you can master, right? It wasn't like and it wasn't until later in my recovery that I realized that, other people, and books, many, many books have been written about this technique, that, the neurobiology of it is that your mind does not know the difference, and it will focus on the things. Like if you have a decision between two things and you've been doing this work or this practice, it will guide you to the one that will guide you to making that visualization true, right? So it's really, again, actually, I'm going to stop apologizing. I don't really care what people think of it. They think of it as woo woo, because I know multimillionaires, billionaires, doctors, people who have used this technique to get what they want in life, including a great figure and including a great relationship.
Well, and it just reminds me of when medicine started using the protocols that the airline goes through, that the pilots go through their checklist.
Yeah.
And when medicine started looking at the pilots, and now we have checklists when we are in the operating room that you go through, and so that you don't miss anything. And so that's the way they learned from the pilots who had these checklists that had to keep all these people safe. And then
I read that book. I read that guy when he came up with that. I think that's amazing.
yeah, yeah. And oh, I've just lost my train of thought of what I was going to say to follow that. There's another place where it came up. But the other thing I wanted to mention was I'll put the link to the book Inner Excellence, because this is a book that, oh, I was going to talk about the athletes, how athletes do it, right? We've
Yeah.
known for a long time that the athletes sit there beforehand and they go through the whole routine and they go through them and they visualize themselves winning the game or winning the medal or whatever it is. And they see that. And so the athletes, and this is the book Inner Excellence, is written by Jim Murphy, who's a guy that trained a lot of professional athletes
Yes.
to be very successful.
Yeah,
So
the inner
yeah.
game of tennis, I hear, is, I didn't ever read it, but I hear it's like this too, the same kind of thing. And this, like
Did
you see,
Arthur Ashe wrote that?
I'm not sure. But
Oh.
anyway, no, Arthur didn't write that one. It was another. But anyway, you can see when somebody's about to go up on the high bar or whatever, they're sitting there like you're describing, and you can see their eyeballs moving in, their eyes are closed.
Mm,
And they have a close up of the sportscaster, and they're like, they're doing
uh-huh.
it, they're
Uh-huh.
doing the routine like before they
Perfectly.
perfectly before they do it, right? And like it can be translated to an entire life.
Yes, it can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
the
it's
other thing that I think is really important about that is as you're going through your life and you're getting to that, like when I was getting to that stage to walk across that stage, there were many things along the way that were
yeah.
trying to get in your way. It's kind of like the negative talk that I have in my head when I want to eat something sweet and it's going, oh, but it's going to taste so good. It's going to taste so great. Oh, it's going to relieve you. That was the other word I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
It because I got down to the bottom of getting relief. It's going to give me some relief. And there's something in my life that's down in the nitty gritty that's me feeling like I want relief from it.
Okay.
But, you don't have to listen to that voice. And you want to listen to the one that says, no, you're not going to watch Joe Montana play football right now. You're going to go study for your test. No, you're not going to go out with your friends. You're going to get on the bike and use note cards as you pedal on the bike to study for this. No,
Right.
you're not, and all those little things, those every little tiny decision and actions that I made got me to my ultimate dream.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so it's little tiny things, when I'm with the food, it's very tricky because the food has to stay into the diet, right? It's very different than the alcohol. People that have pulled off the alcohol understand completely that, the food is a very different beast compared to just stop drinking because we
Yeah.
have to pull it in there. So it's every little decision, every little bite that you take, every little, do I weigh this or not? Like the other day, I was weighing my steak and I thought, oh, this is going to be over 5 ounces. And I weighed it just to see on my digital scale and it was 6.5 and I'm like, oh, that's kind of a lot over. So I took a piece of it off, and then I got it down to the other, so it's just every little decision and every little action that you take, if you are devoted and believe, that's the other word, believe. Oh, isn't that interesting? Relieve and believe.
No, I like it.
uh,
Yeah. No, you do have to, the work that we're describing, you have to believe, it's part of the work, because what you're saying is like, you'll visualize the good scenario and then your negative mind will um, say, you're crazy, that's not going to happen, you know what I mean. And in what's Stephen Pressman's book, The War of Art, I don't know if you ever read that book, it's really good.
oh no.
He calls it the resistance will come for you. And he talks about all artists of every kind, entrepreneurs to painters to writers, whatever, that it's about the daily work of battling the resistance. You know what I mean?
Okay, got it. Got it. Pressman, Pressman.
Yeah, Stephen Pressman. He's really,
Okay, I'll
really
I'll
good.
get that in the
A
link
little
for
bit
you
of a
guys.
cult classic now. It's very thin. It's an easy read, but
Oh,
it's
good.
really, really good. It kicked him off. Well, he wrote the book, and I don't. He got that movie option, that the Legacy of Bagger Vance. It's a anyway. It talks about his writing career and how he went from living in a van to he's a big time writer and stuff, and how resistant. It's got a great twist on the art of war from Sun Tzu, but it's the war of art and how resistance holds you back. How resistance holds you back. So yeah,
Oh,
you'd really like it,
oh,
and
that
anyone
sounds
who's
great.
listening to this podcast would like it as well, because you will. It's like, I don't want to confuse people or sound my ADD out on video. What we talked about before is that if you come from a miswired brain with ultra processed carbohydrates since you were younger, and you are doing this work that we're describing today with a brain that is abstinent from flour and sugar, you're going to be able to anchor new experiences this way and be able to grow much faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that.
And I personally believe that the resistance comes from old neural pathways.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
highway that you're using, right? And then when
Yeah.
you go to make those new neural pathways, they're little at first and they're not big and they're harder to, they're around the big easy highway and you have
Yes,
to put forth that effort and manipulate yourself, and work a little harder, right? To get
that's a
around.
good description, a very good description. That's
And
exactly right.
but it's worth it. It's worth the work.
It's worth the work because eventually they become the highway.
Right.
They become the big highway, and it's no longer work. It's natural for you to live in a positive scenario, to live in a positive circumstance, to live in a growth circumstance. You know what I mean? It's not like, I might as well eat the thing because, whatever. It really is. That's the work. Okay? This is the work. Both the combination of seeing the goal, but then I don't want to use the word fighting the resistance because it's not fighting. It is a little, but it's resisting the resistance, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you said, go work out as opposed to go out with your friends where you might be tempted to do something, maybe something.
Right. And it's just really a different way of thinking, right? Because you'll have a decision to make. And when it's in your mind and you know what the right decision is, sometimes you're not strong enough to make that decision. You know how things are like I know not to eat ultra processed foods to get my weight down, but sometimes I'll make the wrong decision. Well, if
Right.
you have the right mindset and you've done this, you've used your imagination enough times to work out the right decision that you're going to make in that moment, the healthier
Right.
decision, then when you go to make the decision, you can make the healthier decision. And
Right.
that's why I think prayer and meditation is really important. And
Yeah.
I'm starting to meditate more. I have a wonderful friend who we were talking about meditation the other day, and she told me to sit to do it. Because normally I lay on my bed when I meditate, I'm laying down.
Yeah.
And she said to be sitting up when you do it. And I think that was a great suggestion because when you're sitting up, you have to have a little more musculature working, right? You're not totally relaxed. You have
Right.
to support your back and whatever. And so that keeps you a little more alert. And I did that the other day and it was wonderful. I did get a little more quiet time in there. Like in 10 minutes, maybe I had 30 or 45 seconds that were like totally quiet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm quiet right now. I could hear something if it comes. But the rest was full of busyness.
I've heard that exact thing, and I agree with your friend. I agree. I tend to, and still do a little, tend to meditate in bed, and I know that sitting is, or developing a practice is the way to put it. Developing a practice, a sitting practice. It's actually called a sitting practice. So, yeah, I agree 100%.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll have to continue this conversation maybe in a few sessions and see how things are going with, like visual.
Right. No, I think it's, while people may think, because we've said it before, but people come for a food plan and an exercise plan, and somehow they think this is going to magically change the things that diet in culture has been providing forever. But it's so far from diet culture. As what Dr. Molly said, we're in the personal development business. We're in the life changing business, trying to get people to think a little bit different about their life in different ways. And this is only part of it.
Right. And I think about that too, about how, with my channel here, like naming it, giving it a different name because,
Yeah.
but keto is the way that got me there. Keto is big on the search engines and, all of those things. And I think that I like keeping it keto because that's what brings you here, right? We're
Right.
trying to, especially for people who struggle so much with sugar and with food like I do, you're trying to find the solution. You're looking everywhere. And so I'm hoping that as people come to go to keto and getting some of the sugar out was the way that I started the whole process, right? Like, when I started keto, shortly after that, within 2 months, I realized it was the sugar that was holding me up. And so that was quick to come to now getting the sugar out. That has been a bear for me.
Yeah, no, you're very similar to a lot of the people that come to us in general that, they've tried all the diets, doesn't even matter what it is, but then they've narrowed it down that their Achilles heel is sugar. Like it's whatever, vegetarian, cabbage soup, doesn't matter what diet they're doing. They still are stepping out, if you will, with the sugar because they can't stop it. Right. So yeah, no, that's very real.
And I'm trying to look for a solution that's forever. I'm trying to look for a lifetime solution that's going
Yes.
to create not only, me being off of sugar, but create, just, happiness and contentment and joy. And, I've been successful in losing weight when there were really incredible like things at risk, like when I applied to medical school. That's when I first lost a lot of weight, because in retrospect, I
Yeah.
realized that if I wasn't going to get in and I felt dumb, I at least wanted to look hot. And so that's how I ended up being a finalist in the Miss San Diego pageant. That was a whole wonderful, crazy experience.
Right.
And then after I had my 3 kids, I had 3 kids in 3 years. And my
Wow.
body was like, what did you do to me? And then I wanted to shoot for the girl. So I lost, within 3 years, I lost weight on Weight Watchers, and I got into really good shape, and I was fitting into clothes that I wore before the 3 kids. And then we went shooting for the girl. And that's when we got Brandon, our son. And he's the one that tragically passed away in the pool at 4.5 years old. And that was the beginning of my sugar addiction, saying, oh, look, what a wonderful excuse we have that you've lost 2 kids in these terrible, tragic accidents, and you can sit around and be high on sugar forever. And a lot of people would not blame me for that. A lot of people would say, oh, I understand how that could happen. And so
Right.
taking the high stand and being like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
I'm ready to work. I'm ready to do the work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I think we talked about it, like even in this episode, is this, your willingness to share this is like part of the secret for other people, so they feel comfortable, working through whatever their tragedies and things were that
Mm-hmm.
they covered up with sugar, or their, God forbid, sexual abuse or physical abuse,
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
something they didn't handle well, someone dying that they loved or whatever, a spouse or a grandparent, and they just ate their way through it, and then now they're at the other side, and they're like, the body is adapted to that method of soothing, and they can't get out of the hamster.
Right.
They can't stop the soothing, and they haven't developed the newer ways to soothe, the walking, the running, the exercise.
The different pathways that we were talking about.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
and it's not that they didn't handle it well, and it's that they did the best they could under the situation they were in, but they weren't equipped. They
Right.
didn't know,
Yeah.
because these things go back early. We know that we're addicted to sugar, and we go looking back when we're 2, 3, 4 years old.
Right.
When people are 6, 7, 8 years old, and they're being locked in a closet. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're being put in a closet by different people, by the abusive person, by their mother, by different people, is how they dealt with that. And you're not equipped. You don't know how to make healthy decisions. And so hopefully the work that we're doing here is helping people, in their fourth and fifth decade of life to sixth decade, to know how to come to learn healthier new ways.
Yeah, no, exactly, 100%. I mean, that's the avatar, that's the client, that's the person, and God only knows when it'll get down to childbearing age women. But the women that come right now are 45 to 90, who have narrowed it down to sugar as their Achilles heel, or ultra
Mm-hmm.
processed carbohydrates. They realize it, but they're having a difficult time knowing what to do about it. Right?
And hopefully we can be a good example to those younger people,
Yeah,
as this cult grows,
yeah.
they'll be able to know where to go when they're looking at things. Yeah, it's a scary, hard thing to do. And I think that right now there's people who have had a lot of fighting and who are so tired of it, but hopefully it can get earlier and earlier. Just like in Alcoholics Anonymous, there's people now that sober up in their 20s.
I know.
That's just the most awesome thing. They figure it out early. All right. Wow. What a discussion we've had today. We have been all over the map.
I love it. I love it. No,
I do too.
yeah, no, I really, I get a chance to, without like holding back, discuss the things that running around in my mind after doing this work for so long, and seeing stuff that sounds like that guy's crazy, would be crazy. And here I'm able to articulate it, and, people can take it or leave it. But now we're getting to the point where there's been a lot of people that have had success following some of the stuff that we're talking about, understanding it and internalizing it and working. Again, it's not devoid of work. It's the last thing it is. And the last thing we're promising, that you're not alone in doing it, even though it's scary.
Right. All right. So this is where you can come to get raw and real.
There's the name of the website, the thing.
That's right. That's the name of this video today, folks.
Well, it could be the name of the channel, but all right, go ahead.
All right, we'll talk about it. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you next
See ya.
time. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much, Mike.